500,000 years after the Gamelon Empire reduced Earth to ashes, a desperate human soldier infiltrates an enemy base to avenge the ghosts of his incinerated species. Lewis Harris crouches in the shadows, heart pounding, Gamelon soldiers marching past his hiding spot. They massacred his people, shattered his home planet, drove humanity to the brink of extinction. Now the fate of humankind's vengeance rests on his shoulders alone. Humanity once flourished across the stars until the Gamelons attacked without warning or mercy. Earth burned, billions perished. The few survivors scattered, forced into hiding on distant alien worlds. For 500,000 years, the conquerors crushed humans underfoot, believing the species broken beyond repair. But in the darkness, the last remnants of mankind planned, preparing for one final mission of retribution before the human race disappeared forever. Lewis volunteered for this long-awaited chance to strike back at the heart of Gamelon power. One man, alone, in the right place at the right time, could light the spark to burn the Gamelon Empire down. He slips into the base's corridors, quickly locating critical systems, weapons, power, shields. Humanity's killer or savior, he will turn their own fortress against them. "We have an intruder on sub-level 5. The base alarm blares to life. Soldiers rush to battle stations. The outpost's commander, Odin, watches security feeds with narrowed eyes. He catches a glimpse of the infiltrator and scowls. The Gamelon leader barks orders to his men. "Find that saboteur. Capture him alive." As Louis plants explosives to cripple the base, Odin studies his face on the displays. The rivalry between humans and Gamelons spans millennia, and the chance to end humanity once and for all makes the commander's blood sing. Odin swears to crush this human insurgent himself. With alarms blaring and soldiers closing in, Lewis works desperately to complete his mission before the Gamelons stop him, permanently. The future of his species, reduced to a handful scattered amongst the stars, depends on the actions of this lone human warrior, far behind enemy lines. If he fails, the human race dies unavenged, defeated for eternity by the Gamelon Empire. But if he succeeds, the destruction of this base will signal a reckoning 500,000 years in the making. At long last, the conquered have returned to collect a debt of blood from the conquerors. Louis inches closer to the pulsing power core, sweat beading on his forehead as he attaches the final explosive charge. Just as he sets the timer, the ominous click of a dozen plasma rifles echoes through the chamber. He whirls around to face Odin and his elite Gamelon soldiers, weapons trained on the lone human. "Step away from the core, human scum," Odin snarls, his eyes burning with hatred. "Your pathetic attempt at sabotage ends here." Louis straightens up, a defiant smirk on his face despite the dire situation. "You think this ends with me, Odin? Humanity will never stop fighting until every last Gamelon pays for what you did to Earth. We may be scattered across the stars, but our thirst for vengeance unites us." Odin scoffs, his lip curling in disgust. "Your stubborn resilience is as pointless as it is irritating. We know of the surviving human vermin hiding throughout the galaxy. Even now, our forces are moving to hunt them down and eradicate them completely. But you, saboteur, you have a choice. Tell us the locations of your fellow insurgents, and I may spare your miserable life." Lewis locks eyes with Odin, his voice unwavering. "I would rather die 1,000 deaths than betray my species to the likes of you." The Gamelon commander's finger tightens on the trigger, but before he can fire, a deafening explosion tears through the chamber. The power core, critically damaged by Louis' hidden charge, erupts in a blinding flash of energy. Odin and his soldiers are thrown back by the shockwave, while Lewis, shielded by a nearby console, seizes his chance to escape in the ensuing chaos. Alarms blare and emergency lights flicker as Louis sprints through the crumbling outpost, dodging falling debris and disoriented Gamelon troops. He spots a hangar bay ahead and makes a break for it, leaping into the nearest Gamelon spacecraft just as Odin and his men storm in, firing wildly. The stolen ship roars to life under Louis' hands, and he punches the throttle, blasting out of the hangar and into the craggy landscape beyond. Odin, his face contorted with rage, jumps into his own craft and takes off in hot pursuit. Lewis pushes the unfamiliar controls to their limits, weaving through narrow canyons and jagged peaks as Odin's ship rains down plasma fire from above. The stolen vessel shudders under the onslaught, alarms screaming in the cockpit. Lewis grits his teeth, pulling off a series of desperate evasive maneuvers to shake his relentless pursuer. With Odin's ship closing in for the kill, Lewis spots a tight gap between two towering cliffs up ahead. Saying a silent prayer, he aims the spacecraft directly for the narrow opening and punches the afterburners. Odin, realizing Lewis' intentions too late, tries to pull up, but his ship slams into the canyon wall in a fiery explosion. Louis' stolen craft bursts through the other side of the gap, trailing smoke and sparks, but still in one piece. He allows himself a momentary grin of victory before the gravity of Odin's earlier revelation sinks in. The Gamelons know of the surviving humans and are hell-bent on wiping them out completely. He must warn the scattered remnants of humanity before it's too late. As the crippled Gamelon outpost recedes into the distance behind him, Louis opens a secure comm channel, reaching out to Akira Sato and Elena Ivanova, two of the most influential human resistance leaders left. If humanity has any hope of survival, they must put aside their differences and unite against the genocidal ambitions of the Gamelon Empire. Akira, Elena, this is Louis Harris, he begins, his voice heavy with urgency. We have an emergency on our hands. The Gamelons are coming for us, all of us. It's time to stand together and take the fight to the heart of their empire before they can snuff us out forever. We are the last of humanity, and we will not go quietly into the void. This is our chance to avenge Earth and forge a new future among the stars. Louis Harris tapped furiously at the controls of his stolen Gamelon ship, initiating a secure subspace transmission. His heart raced as he waited for a response from the rebel leaders. This is Akira Sato, identify yourself, a gruff voice crackled through the comm. Akira, it's Louis Harris. We have a situation. Is Elena there? A moment of silence passed before another voice joined the call. Elena Ivanova here. What's going on, Harris? Louis took a deep breath. The Gamelons know about us, all of us. They're planning to wipe out every last human in the galaxy. He quickly relayed the intel he'd gathered during his infiltration of the Gamelon outpost. Akira and Elena listened in stunned silence. We need to unite, Louis pressed. It's our only chance. Akira scoffed. Unite? We've survived this long by staying apart. He's right, Elena added. How do we know this isn't a trap? Louis clenched his fists in frustration. Look, I'm sending you the data I stole. See for yourselves. He transmitted the classified Gamelon files. For several tense minutes, only the hum of the ship's engines filled the silence. Finally, Akira spoke. This is unprecedented. The scope of their fleet, Elena murmured. We had no idea. Before Louis could respond, alarms blared throughout his ship. He checked the sensors and felt his blood run cold. Gamelon fleet incoming. They must have tracked me. Louis's warning came too late. The sky above Akira's hidden base lit up with the searing light of Gamelon plasma cannons. The orbital bombardment tore through the rebel defenses without effort. Evacuate now! Louis shouted into the comm. I'll cover your escape. He pushed his stolen craft to its limits, drawing enemy fire as Akira and Elena's ships fled the doomed base. Louis weaved through the barrage, his ship shuddering under near misses. They regrouped at Elena's secret moon base, the remnants of their forces limping into the underground hangar. Louis's stolen ship, barely holding together, touched down last. As the dust settled, Elena led them to a hidden laboratory deep within the lunar rock. While you were playing hero, she said to Louis, we've been busy. A team of haggard scientists unveiled their creation, a massive cannon that hummed with barely contained energy. We reverse-engineered their tech, one scientist explained. This neutrino cannon can pierce Gamelon shields. Louis stared at the weapon, an idea forming. We need time to prepare a counterattack. I'll let myself be captured, feed you intel from inside. Akira grabbed Louis's arm. That's suicide. It's our only shot, Louis replied. Trust me. Days later, Lewis found himself strapped to an interrogation chair on a Gamelon prison station. Odin loomed over him, eyes gleaming with malice. "Where are the other humans hiding?" Odin snarled, activating a neural probe. Louis screamed as white-hot pain lanced through his skull. But even as he writhed in agony, his fingers tapped out coded messages on a hidden transmitter. Slowly, painstakingly, Louis pieced together the Gamelon's battle plans. Each scrap of intel went straight to Akira and Elena, allowing them to position their forces for a surprise counterattack. But Odin was growing suspicious. The Gamelon commander paced the interrogation chamber, studying Louis with narrowed eyes. "Your capture was too easy," Odin mused. "What game are you playing, human?" Louis met Odin's gaze, fighting to keep his face neutral. He could only hope the resistance would strike before the Gamelon discovered the truth. Truth. The Gamelon commander's eyes narrowed as he studied Louis. "You're right. Your capture was far too convenient." He leaned in close, his breath hot on Louis's face. "What are you really up to, human?" Louis remained silent, his heart pounding. Odin grabbed him by the throat, snarling, "Tell me!" Before Louis could respond, a technician burst into the room. "Commander, we found something." Odin released Louis and turned to the technician. "What is it?" "A hidden transmitter, sir, in the human's gear." Odin's eyes gleamed with malicious triumph. He spun back to Louis. "So you've been feeding information to your rebel friends. Clever." A cruel smile spread across his face. But not clever enough. Meanwhile, on a distant asteroid base, Akira Sato and Elena Ivanova pored over the intelligence Louis had been sending them. "If this is accurate," Akira said, pointing to a holographic star map, "we can hit their supply lines here and here." Elena nodded. "It's risky, but it could cripple their offensive." As they strategized, a new transmission from Louis came through. Elena's eyes widened as she decoded it. "Akira, look at this. A weakness in their fleet formation." Akira studied the data, his brow furrowed. "It seems almost too good to be true." "But we can't afford to ignore it," Elena countered. "This could be our chance to strike a real blow against the Gamelons." Back on the prison station, Odin watched with satisfaction as his trap was set. He turned to his communications officer. "Send the message. Let's see how quickly our little rebel friends take the bait." The officer nodded, transmitting the carefully crafted false intel through Louis's hidden device. In his cell, Louis felt a surge of hope as he tapped out what he thought was vital information to the resistance. He had no way of knowing he was leading his comrades into a deadly ambush. Akira and Elena's rebel fleet moved into position, their ships emerging from hyperspace near the coordinates Louis had provided. Elena's voice crackled over the comm. "All units, prepare to engage on my mark." But as the vanguard of their fleet pushed forward, proximity alarms blared to life. Before anyone could react, the space around them erupted in a firestorm of energy blasts and explosions. "It's a trap!" Akira shouted. "Evasive maneuvers!" But it was too late. Gamelon's stealth drones decloaked, their weapons tearing through the rebel ships. Massive orbital platforms, hidden among the debris of an ancient alien civilization, opened fire with devastating precision. On the bridge of her flagship, Elena watched in horror as her forces were decimated. "We're boxed in," she yelled. "There's no way out." Back in his cell, Louis stared in disbelief at the view screen Odin had activated. The Gamelon commander's laughter filled the room as Louis watched his friends and allies being slaughtered. "You see," Odin gloated, "your pathetic resistance is finished. Humanity dies today." Louis's mind raced. He had to do something, anything, to save what was left of the rebel fleet. In a burst of desperate strength, he broke free from his restraints and overpowered the guard outside his cell. Fighting his way through the station, Louis made it to the central command hub. His fingers flew over the control panels, overriding security protocols and accessing the main communications array. "Akira! Elena!" he shouted into the comm. "It's a trap! Jump to these coordinates now!" He transmitted the location of the hidden moon base, praying it wasn't too late. As alarms blared and Gamelon soldiers converged on his position, Louis saw the remnants of the rebel fleet make the jump to hyperspace. He allowed himself a small smile of victory before Odin and his men burst into the room, weapons trained on him. On the distant moon, Akira and Elena's battered ships emerged from hyperspace. They stared at the massive neutrino cannon, their last hope against the Gamelon onslaught. "We have to make this count," Akira said grimly. "It's all we have left." But even as they prepared to deploy their secret weapon, long-range sensors picked up a massive Gamelon fleet approaching. Odin had discovered their final refuge, and he was coming to finish what he'd started. Elena's voice was heavy with commitment as she addressed what remained of the rebel forces. "This is it, our last stand. For Earth, for humanity. We fight." The blinding flash of the neutrino cannon faded, revealing a scene of utter devastation. Gamelon ships hung motionless in space, their hulls crackling with residual energy. Louis Harris stood on the bridge of his command vessel, surveying the carnage. "All teams move in now," he ordered into the comm. "Hit them hard while they're down." Rebel assault shuttles streaked toward the disabled Gamelon fleet. Louis led the charge, his craft latching onto the hull of a massive battlecruiser. The airlock hissed open, and he charged in with his squad, plasma rifles at the ready. Disoriented Gamelon crew stumbled through smoke-filled corridors. Louis and his team cut them down with precision fire, advancing deeper into the ship. An alien officer raised his weapon, but Louis dropped him with a burst to the chest. "Engine room 2 decks down," Louis called out, checking a captured schematic. "Move fast before they recover." They fought their way through choke points, Gamelon bodies piling up in their wake. Louis kicked open the door to engineering, tossing in a stun grenade. His team rushed in, securing the vital systems. "Charges set," reported a demolitions expert, attaching devices to key power nodes. Louis nodded. "Good work. Let's move to the next target." Outside, the battle raged. Mikhail Kozlov's voice crackled over the comm. "Flagship crippled. Moving on to Sector 7. Jin Woo-hyuk's fighters screamed past, strafing Gamelon ships attempting to regroup. "Watch your 6, Louis. Bogies incoming." Louis's team fought their way back to their shuttle, narrowly escaping as the charges detonated. The battlecruiser split apart in a spectacular explosion. On Odin's flagship, alarms blared as systems failed. The Gamelon commander snarled orders, pounding a malfunctioning console. "Repel the human vermin at all costs," he roared. "I want their heads." But it was too late. Louis and his team had already breached the hull, carving a path of destruction toward the bridge. They planted high-yield charges at key structural points along the way. As his squad prepared to withdraw, Louis gripped his rifle tightly. "Get to the extraction point. I have unfinished business." He found Odin on the darkened bridge, frantically trying to restore weapons control. The Gamelon spun to face him, eyes burning with hate. "Harris," Odin spat, "I should have killed you when I had the chance." Louis raised his rifle. "That was your mistake." Odin lunged, knocking the weapon aside. They grappled fiercely, crashing into consoles and view screens. Louis felt ribs crack under the alien's powerful blows, but he fought on, driven by years of pent-up rage. A distant boom signaled the first charges detonating. The ship shuddered, throwing them both off balance. Louis seized the moment, landing a crushing blow to Odin's head. The Gamelon commander stumbled, dazed. With a final surge of strength, Louis slammed Odin into a sparking control panel. The alien convulsed as electricity coursed through him, then collapsed. Louis stood over his fallen enemy, panting heavily. He keyed his comm. "It's done. Let's go home." He limped to the waiting shuttle as Odin's flagship tore itself apart behind him. The remnants of the Gamelon fleet scattered, their command structure in tatters. Days later, Louis stood with Akira and Elena in the rebel command center. Holograms displayed their hard-won victory and the production of new neutrino cannons. "We've dealt them a critical blow," Akira said, "but the threat isn't over." Elena nodded grimly. "Odin's final order still stands. The Gamelons won't stop until every human is dead." Louis studied the strategic display, his mind racing. They had won the battle, but at a terrible cost. Their forces were depleted, their resources strained to the breaking point. "We can't win a war of attrition," he said quietly. "We need to end this once and for all." Akira and Elena turned to him expectantly. Lewis took a deep breath and outlined his audacious plan. "We infiltrate Gamelon's Central Command," he explained. "Not to destroy, but to rewrite their core directives. We turn their own systems against them." Elena's eyes widened. "That's insane. The security would be impenetrable." "It's our only chance," Lewis insisted. "We've proven we can beat them in a fight. Now it's time to beat them at their own game." Akira stroked his chin thoughtfully. "It's a long shot, but it just might work. How do we proceed?" Lewis's eyes gleamed with perseverance. "First, we need to gather intel. Every scrap of data on Gamelon command protocols, security systems, and network architecture. Then we assemble a team of our best hackers and infiltration specialists." He pulled up a galactic map, zooming in on a heavily fortified sector. "This is where we strike, the heart of the Gamelon Empire." Lewis's eyes blazed with intensity as he laid out his daring plan. "We hit them where it hurts, right at the heart of their command structure." Akira leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "You're talking about infiltrating Ragnarok. That's suicide, Lewis." "It's our only shot," Lewis insisted. He turned to Elena. "You've seen the intel. We can't win a war of attrition." Elena nodded grimly. "He's right. Our resources are stretched to the breaking point. If we don't end this now, there won't be anything left of humanity to save." Lewis activated a holographic display of the massive Gamelon command station. "I've assembled a team. Mikhail, Jin. They're ready for this. We have a decommissioned Gamelon stealth transport, and we have Odin." Akira's eyes widened. "You want to use Odin to get inside? That's insane," Lewis finished. "Yeah, it is, but it's also our best chance." Days later, Louis stood in the cramped hold of the stealth transport, surrounded by his hand-picked team. Mikhail checked his demo charges one last time while Jin ran through pre-flight checks on his fighter. "Remember," Louis said, his voice low and intense, "once we're inside, we split up. Mikhail, your team rigs the power relays. Jin, you stay cloaked until we need that diversion. I'll take Odin to the central hub." He turned to the bound Gamelon commander. Odin glared back, hatred burning in his alien eyes. "You'll never succeed," Odin snarled. "Ragnarok is impenetrable." Louis smiled coldly. "We'll see about that." The transport glided silently through space, its cloaking field rendering it invisible to Gamelon sensors. As they approached the massive station, Louis felt his heart rate quicken. "Initiating docking sequence," the pilot announced. Louis nodded to Mikhail. The demolitions expert pressed Odin's hand against the airlock's biometric scanner. There was a tense moment of silence, then a soft chime as the lock disengaged. "We're in," Louis breathed. They moved swiftly through Ragnarok's outer corridors, Odin's presence allowing them to bypass security checkpoints undetected. At a junction, Louis signaled for the team to split up. "Good luck," he murmured to Mikhail and Jin. "See you on the other side." Louis pressed his blaster against Odin's back as they made their way deeper into the station. They reached the central hub, a cavernous room filled with banks of computers and holo displays. "Access the extermination protocols," Louis ordered. "Now!" Odin hesitated, then slowly began inputting commands. Suddenly, alarms blared to life. "What did you do?" Louis demanded. Odin sneered. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" Louis cursed, then jammed his data spike into the nearest console. The virus upload began, corrupting the protocols even as Gamelon security forces converged on their position. The first explosions from Mikhail's charges rocked the station. Outside, Jin's fighters decloaked, launching a blistering assault that drew Gamelon reinforcements away from the command hub. Louis fought desperately, subduing the guards that breached the room. His fingers flew over the keyboards, uploading the altered directives that would end the centuries-long war. As Ragnarok's systems initiated emergency lockdown, Louis transmitted the override codes to Akira and Elena. He grabbed Odin, rigging the last of the explosives as they raced for the extraction point. The crippled station's reactor detonated behind them as their transport blasted free of the docking bay. Louis watched through the view screen as Ragnarok, the heart of the Gamelon war machine, erupted in a massive fireball. Hours later, aboard the rebel flagship, Louis stood with Akira and Elena as they analyzed incoming transmissions from across Gamelon space. "It's done," Elena said softly. "The extermination orders. They've all been rescinded." Louis let out a long breath, feeling the weight of centuries lift from his shoulders. "We did it. We actually did it." Akira clasped his shoulder. "You've given us a chance, Louis. A real chance to rebuild." Louis nodded, his mind already racing with plans. "We need to find a place to settle, somewhere beyond Gamelon space where we can grow strong again." He turned to the star map, searching for a new beginning among the countless pinpoints of light. "It won't be easy," he said, "but for the first time in 500,000 years we have hope." The rebel fleet engaged their drives, leaving behind the ashes of Ragnarok as they charted a course for the farthest reaches of the galaxy and the promise of a new dawn for humanity. The rebel fleet emerged from hyperspace, a ragtag collection of ships built and salvaged over centuries of desperate resistance. Louis Harris stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, his eyes fixed on the screen, as a pristine blue-green world came into focus. "There it is," he breathed. "New Horizon." Akira Sato leaned in, studying the readouts. "Atmosphere composition matches Earth norms. Gravity 0.98 g. It's perfect." Elena Ivanova's fingers danced across her console. "No signs of artificial structures or emissions. We're the first to set foot here in who knows how long." Louis nodded, a weight lifting from his shoulders. "Signal the fleet, we're going home." Days later, Louis stood on the planet's surface, feeling real soil beneath his feet for the first time in years. The air was crisp and clean, filled with the sense of an alien yet familiar ecosystem. All around him, colonists unloaded supplies and began assembling prefabricated shelters. "It's not Earth," Akira said, joining him, "but it's ours." Louis watched as a group of children chased each other through a field of violet grass. "It's more than that. It's a fresh start." In the months that followed, New Horizons slowly took shape. Louis oversaw the construction of habitats, hydroponic farms, and rudimentary manufacturing facilities. The work was backbreaking, but for the first time in generations, humanity had a world to call their own. Odin, the captured Gamelon commander, proved an invaluable, if reluctant, asset. Under guard, he provided insights into advanced technologies that accelerated the colony's development. Louis watched him carefully, always wary of treachery. "Your people will regret this mercy," Odin growled one day as they toured a newly completed power plant. "The Empire does not forgive." Louis met his gaze evenly. "Then we'll just have to make sure they never find us." A year passed. The first child born on New Horizon, a girl named Hope, took her first steps on the planet's red soil. Louis watched from a distance as her parents cheered, his chest tight with emotion. 500,000 years, he murmured. "We made it." But even as New Horizon flourished, troubling reports began to trickle in. Elena burst into the command center one morning, her face grim. "We've intercepted Gamelon transmissions," she reported. "Loyalist factions are still hunting for human survivors. And there's more. The central leadership is mobilizing forces along the frontier. They're preparing for something big." Louis's fists tight, he turned to Akira. "Gather the council. We need to talk." Hours later, Louis stood before the assembled colony leaders, laying out the stark reality of their situation. "We can't hide forever," he said, his voice firm. "The Gamelons will find us eventually. We need to take the fight to them before they can regroup." Elena shook her head. "Louis, we don't have the resources for an all-out war. We'd be risking everything we've built here." "If we do nothing, we lose it all anyway," Louis countered. "We hit them where it hurts, their subject worlds. spark rebellion, sabotage their industries, arm the oppressed. We turn the empire against itself. Debate raged for hours, but in the end, Lewis's plan won out. Within days, the rebel fleet was mobilized once more. Louis stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching New Horizons shrink in the distance. "This is Shadow 1 to all unit," he broadcast. "Our target is the Gamilon mining colony on Epsilon Eridani 4. Remember, we're not there to conquer, we're there to liberate. Let's remind the galaxy what freedom looks like." The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes of a reborn humanity and the seeds of an empire's downfall. The rebel fleet emerged from hyperspace, a ragtag armada of human and alien vessels united against Gamilon tyranny. Lewis Harris stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes fixed on the tactical display as Helgard came into view, a blue-green orb shrouded in layers of orbital defenses. "This is it," he said, his voice low, "the heart of the Empire." Akira Sato frowned, studying the readouts. "Those defenses are formidable. We're looking at multiple rings of minefields, automated weapon platforms, and at least 3 major fleet groups." "We knew this wouldn't be easy," Lewis replied. He tapped his console, bringing up the battle plan. "Remember, our stealth units are already in position. On my mark, they'll—" Alarms blared to life, cutting him off. Elena Ivanova's fingers flew across her station. "Multiple contacts! Gamilon warships decloaking all around us!" Louis cursed. "It's a trap. All ships, evasive maneuvers." The space around them erupted in blinding flashes as Gamilon warheads slammed into the first wave of human vessels. Shields buckled and hulls shattered under the onslaught. "We're being torn apart," Akira shouted over the din of explosions. "Lewis, we have to retreat." Lewis gripped the command rail, his fist clenched. "No! We push through. This is our only chance." The comm crackled to life. "Human vermin," a familiar voice sneered. "Did you really think you could invade sacred Helgard itself?" "Odin," Louis snarled, "you betrayed us." The Gamilon's laughter rang out. "I serve the Empire as I always have. Your pathetic rebellion ends here." Louis opened his mouth to reply, but Elena cut him off. "New contacts! Another Gamilon fleet just dropped out of hyperspace." Louis braced for the final blow, but it never came. Instead, the new arrivals opened fire on Odin's forces. "What the hell?" Akira breathed. "This is Admiral Thora of the Gamilon Traditionalist faction," a new voice announced. "We oppose the corruption of the current regime. Human fleet, press your attack. We will handle these loyalist dogs." Louis didn't hesitate. "You heard the lady. All ships, push through to Helgard. Ground teams, prepare for insertion." The space around Helgard devolved into chaos as Gamilon factions tore into each other. Lewis led the remnants of the human fleet through the maelstrom, punching a hole in the planet's defenses. Hours later, Lewis crouched behind a fallen pillar in Helgard's sprawling capital complex, his pulse rifle clutched tight. Akira and Elena flanked him, their faces streaked with grime and sweat. "The council chambers should be just ahead," Elena whispered, checking her datapad. Lewis nodded. "This is it. We take out the leadership, and the Empire crumbles." They moved swiftly through twisting corridors, dispatching Gamilon guards with precise bursts of weapons fire. Overhead, the muffled thunder of orbital combat shook dust from ancient ceilings. At last, they reached a set of towering doors emblazoned with the Gamilon Imperial crest. Louis placed a breaching charge and motioned his team back. "Remember," he said, his voice tight, "we're here to capture, not kill. The Empire needs to see its leaders brought to justice." The charge detonated, and they stormed into the cavernous chamber beyond. Gamilon counselors cowered behind ornate desks as Louis's team fanned out, weapons trained on the alien leaders. "In the name of humanity and all peoples oppressed by the Gamilon Empire," Louis declared, his voice ringing out, "you are hereby relieved of command." One of the counselors, taller than the rest, rose slowly to his feet. "So," he said, his voice filled with cold amusement, The slaves have come to overthrow their masters. How quaint. Lewis leveled his rifle at the alien's chest. It's over. Surrender now and... The counselor's laughter cut him off. Oh, you fool. Did you really think it would be this easy? He raised a hand, revealing a device clutched in his palm. You may have penetrated our defenses, but Helgard still has one final surprise for you. His finger hovered over a pulsing red button. Lewis lunged forward, his body slamming into Odin's as the Gamelon's finger hovered over the detonator. They crashed to the ground in a tangle of limbs, the device skittering across the polished floor of the conclave chamber. You won't win that easily, Louis snarled, grappling with his alien foe. Odin's eyes blazed with hatred as he struggled against Lewis's grip. If I die, I'm taking you all with me. The chamber erupted in chaos. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air as Gamelon factions turned on each other and the human intruders. Lewis's squad fought desperately, their weapons chattering as they sought cover behind ornate pillars and overturned furniture. Keep them pinned down, Louis shouted, still wrestling with Odin. We need to end this now. With a surge of strength, Odin broke free and scrambled for the fallen detonator. Louis dove after him, his fingers closing around the device just as Odin snatched it up. They grappled for control, neither willing to yield. A stray shot struck near them, showering them with sparks. In that instant of distraction, Louis wrenched the detonator from Odin's grasp and hurled it with all his might. The explosive sailed through the air, tumbling end over end before smashing into a glowing energy conduit at the far end of the chamber. The world went white. The blast tore through the room, vaporizing Gamelons caught in its path and shattering ancient architecture. Louis was thrown back, his ears ringing as he struggled to his feet. Through the smoke and debris, he saw the horrifying results of Odin's plan gone awry. The central energy nexus pulsed with unstable power, arcs of lightning lashing out to destroy everything they touched. The very foundations of Helgard trembled. Fall back, Louis bellowed, gesturing wildly to his remaining soldiers. This whole place is coming down. They retreated through corridors already beginning to collapse, Christopheric alloys groaning as millennia of Gamelon engineering gave way. Lewis's comlink crackled to life. Louis, what's happening? Elena's voice cut through the static. The entire defense grid just went dark. No time to explain, Louis panted as he ran. Get to the extraction point now. They emerged into chaos. The skies above Helgard blazed with the light of warring fleets, while on the ground, panicked Gamelons fled collapsing structures. Louis and his battered team fought their way through the pandemonium, racing for their waiting shuttles. Akira's voice came over the comm. We're at the rendezvous. Where are you? Almost there, Louis replied, ducking as a piece of falling debris nearly crushed him. Be ready for immediate dust-off. They rounded a corner to see their salvation, a pair of human dropships, engines spooling up for launch. Louis urged his team on with desperate intensity. Go, go, go! They sprinted across the landing pad as the ground shook beneath their feet. Louis practically threw the last of his soldiers into the nearest shuttle before leaping aboard himself. The hatch sealed shut as the dropships lifted off, narrowly avoiding a massive shard of falling masonry. Through the viewports, Louis watched Helgard die. Fissures split the once verdant surface, venting atmosphere into the void of space. The proud Gamelon fleets that had reigned unchallenged for eons now turned tail and fled, leaving their homeworld to its fate. As they broke orbit, joining the ragtag fleet of human and rebel Gamelon vessels, Louis slumped against the bulkhead. The adrenaline faded, leaving only bone-deep exhaustion and the weight of all they had sacrificed to reach this moment. We did it, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. We actually did it. The comm crackled. It was Elena, her voice thick with emotion. Louis, you need to see this. He made his way to the cockpit, where a holographic display showed dozens of worlds across Gamelon space. On each one, centuries of oppression were crumbling as news of Helgard's fall spread like wildfire. It's over, Akira said softly. The Empire is finished. Louis nodded, his throat tight. He thought of all those who had given their lives to see this day, friends, family, entire generations ground to dust beneath Gamelon boots. Now, at last, their sacrifice had meaning. As the fleet set course for New Horizon and the promise of a free future, Lewis allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The war that had consumed his entire life was finally, truly over. Now came the hard part, building something new from the ashes of the old. He turned to his companions, his eyes gleaming with fierce pride. "Let's go home."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.